Welcome back to Community Conversations. I'm your host, Steve Mantis, and with me today are our two guests, Rebecca Johnson and Sandra Albertson, both with Thunder Bay Counts. So, just before we took a break, there's a number of things that come up, and so let me start with data. I'm not sure what other people think about it. I kind of go, I bet you Safeway has more data on me than anybody. What kind of data are we talking about? And the second part for me is this whole question of who knows who collecting data on us, the issue of privacy, and the balancing of that with public information and public good. So let's start with what kind of data are we talking about and who's out there collecting it that we can use?
Well, first of all, I have to say I'm not an expert in data, so this is knowledge I've gained through the process that we've been taking. The whole concept of data and who's collecting it, we have a lot of large institutions in Thunder Bay, and everyone has their own way and reason to collect data. When you're looking at confidentiality of data, there is ways that you can take any type of information that is going to pinpoint a person or a specific thing that out of that data and just make it into a number, and how that's going to occur is a process that we'll be working on.
So that's kind of the privacy issue.
The privacy, yes.
So you're taking the names away and you're just putting in...
Exactly. So when you're looking at data around employment, you can collect unemployment rates. You can go to some of the employment agencies and they track statistics of people who come there, who are being employed, who aren't being employed. They may have reasons why that's occurring and things like that. So, there's all types of different data, but when you're looking at developing first of all, a starting point, you want to get a grounding as to where you're going to begin the project and how the actual what Thunder Bay looks like right now. So it's a snapshot in time. So then when we start collecting data, and it'll indicate, or these indicators will show us, what is changing over time. So it's more the numbers piece. But then we also want to collect stories of change as well. So it's the numbers and the positive stories of what's occurring in our community. And the numbers will tell us whether we're on track. Are we actually doing the right thing? Are the right people involved? That type of stuff. So, as the numbers change over time, we'll be able to say, okay, well, maybe we have to go back to the drawing board. We may have to look at this and perhaps change it. And then the personal stories, as the change is occurring, it'll just add more meat around the whole idea of positive change when you bring a personal experience. And those will be people talking about the change that's occurred to them when we're looking at, goal areas.
Yeah, so let me just explore the data part a little bit more, maybe with you, Rebecca. I know in my life, I've been responsible for collecting data when I worked for a social service organization, but it's complex.
Yes.
And it's hard to know sometimes how accurate or reliable it is. One of the big things I think about is our population. And I know this affects all kinds of things with the city, with the transfer of dollars from the province. And what I've heard people say is that we don't even know how many people live in our city because some people are reluctant to come forward and say, I am a person and I live here, to be counted as part of our population. One of our most basic data.
Yeah.
Where are we at with that here in the city of Thunder Bay for our population?
Well, I can't speak for Census Canada, of course, and that's where it really comes from, to be quite honest with you.
Right, and we've got cutbacks there.
But no, and so you do the best you can. And the other thing I think for Thunder Bay is that although the census does provide some of that, we know that there's populations coming in that we don't account for, and that's a given. So you do it on your best guess for some of it. So but you can also get data from, for example, the hospital.
Yes.
Because, and you don't think about that as can wind up being some of the actual numbers of people that we have in our community, for example, because they have to go to a hospital, not have to, but they could be going to a hospital. So that can be part of your information that you're gathering for all of this. When you were looking at data, there's no exact science to make it, perfect. But at least if you have, and the other thing is with the data, if you start sharing it, you'll start finding some things that are similar. And so, for example, we know that there are communities, neighborhoods in our community that have some issues in them. So if you get all of that data coming in and identifying that, then that's where you maybe just start putting some dollars to make those communities and fix them up and help them in whatever manner that is. Or give back to those communities, as I was saying to you at one point in time, that maybe we need to start giving each community a amount of money for them to work on the issues in their community. So the data comes back to how do we collectively look at that, and eventually you will be able to find that there will be some similarities because that data will cross-reference itself. It's quite interesting how that, and they've done that in other communities, so we're not unique. Sault Ste. Marie are well known, for example, of already having that in place. And they can pull the data from various organizations or the strategies together, and they will come up with the answers for different things that they're looking for specifically. So it works. It really works. So specific data, I don't know if you ever get to the exact science of it, but at the same point in time, you can get enough that will actually provide you with the questions which will provide ultimately the answers, if that makes some sense to you.
Right. So,
Yeah.
and in a way, you're in that position of a decision maker for the city.
Correct.
Big budget. So there's a recognition that the data is not going to be 100%, but still it's a helpful tool
Without question.
in that decision making process.
Without question. And there will be enough data of all of these that will, as I say, be able to really pinpoint some of the areas that we seriously need to look at, because it will be the bit of data from this and another bit of data from that, and then you will be able to see a clear direction, and it'll be pretty scientific, to be quite honest with you, when we get to that point. Yeah, I feel very comfortable with that.
Excellent. And I've been working with researchers for the last 15 years or so, and one of the challenges I see is okay, we've got all this data. What do we do with it? And even in the poverty reduction strategy, I've been active in that strategy group. Here we've got this data, and now you can ask all these questions, but how do you figure out what are the important questions to ask that data? Because everything takes time and energy.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
So how do you prioritize? What are you looking for as you're trying to get answers out of that data? It's still a challenge for me.
We're very fortunate that we're working with a consultant, Taylor Newberry Consulting. His name is Andrew Taylor, and he has been doing this type of work for quite a long time. So he has been helping us through the process. He is actually in working on the indicators. He's been collecting some of the data that is available easily. And we also have a coordinator working with us who is going to help dig a little deeper into what kind of other data that we can start pulling together for that baseline. So for the layman, trying to read and manipulate data is not something that can be done. Yeah, well, exactly. I think it's all of us. It's all of us. But there are people who can do it, and as I said, we'll have a good start in the process because of Andrew Taylor, our consultant for the project, and he brings expertise to that.
Okay, we should probably hang on there. We've
Yeah.
got to take another short break. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.